I just saw another police car. This is quite extraordinary. This is a Sunday morning and I've just spotted 2 police cars in such a short time. This is ridiculous. They must be beefing up their patrols. This is not normal. So when I heard those sirens, I wasn't imagining it. I think this is actually happening. And we know that people are being picked up and questioned regarding social isolation. So happening elsewhere, so maybe here as well. I guess we'll only know we're back to normal when these shelves are actually full again. And of course they're not. So, oh, hold on. Oh my God, actually things are getting better. I have not seen that for ages. Toilet paper's actually on the shelves. Well, that is an improvement. So there's a tangible improvement. This is around 9 o'clock on Sunday, and they actually have toilet paper on the shelves. Wow, things are easing up. Well, that's good news. I tell you, social distancing is something that they just don't get up here. When I walked into Woolworths just before, there was one of the staff members having a nice old chat with a customer who was right at the choke point for me entering the actual store. I couldn't avoid her. I had to pass right past her because she was standing right in the entrance point. I mean, the staff member, she wanted to have a chat with this customer, should have done it elsewhere, not there, just dumb. And of course when I left the place, there were 3 teenage girls having a nice old chat as I was just at the exit area. I mean, these people don't get it, you know. You're supposed to be in areas trying to avoid contact, not to be in positions where it's almost impossible to avoid contact. Quite extraordinary. But anyway, I don't think it's as big a deal as people were making out, especially the media and the lily-livered politicians who bend to any hysteria in the media. I certainly don't think, luckily, it's been anywhere near as bad as these dire predictions have made out, so that's good. On a personal level, talk about my friend who's currently in quarantine in Brisbane in a hotel room. He was telling me about how he could get a bit sometime to outside of the room, but only for a short period of time, say quarter of an hour or so, and he has to be accompanied by a policeman. They've actually got police in this building permanently 24 hours a day, so imagine how much it's costing to provide this sort of service. So they're on 12-hour shifts apparently. He's having a chat to one of them about it, and yeah, he's over the hump now. He's actually he'll be released on Friday, I think, next Friday. So that's good for him. I tried to I had a chat with him and on the phone, because at least we've got WhatsApp, so I can actually have a video discussion with him, which is good, because obviously he craves any attention that he can get. But you know, I'm in the same boat. I haven't mixed with anybody either, so you know, I've been in the apartment for 3 days, but it's better being in your own place, of course. But at least he's got, like I say, internet and what have you. But yeah, he is restricted to how much time he can take outside in a courtyard downstairs, and there's a pool apparently on level 1, but you can't swim in it, unfortunately. So that's not great for him. But yeah, the other thing I mentioned is they haven't actually tested him at all, given him a blood test or anything like that. Now, I would have thought if you've got people who are quarantined, forcibly quarantined for 2 weeks, you'd want to carry out some sort of a coronavirus test on them, but not so far. So he's been there for over a week and no tests have been carried out at all. I think he said at the airport they checked his temperature, that's about it. But since then, nothing. They actually call him up apparently on a daily basis just to make sure he's okay and he hasn't scarpered, I guess. And although I don't know how you would be able to, he's on the 13th floor, so it'd be pretty well impossible for him to actually get out of the place. Yeah, he's over the midway point, so I guess he'll be feeling a bit better. It'll be a huge relief to him when he gets to go home. but presumably they'll carry out some sort of a test on him before they let him do that. So we'll see how it goes. He'll keep me informed. So that's my personal reporting of my knowledge of what's happening with the quarantine situation. So there you go. I haven't seen a cop car for 5 minutes. Amazing. It's a rarity. Another car there. Oh dear. Yeah, well, it's like I said, it's very encouraging to see a bit of toilet paper on the shelves. That does tend to indicate that things may be getting back to a reasonable position when it comes to the supply chain of essentials. So that's nice to see. I didn't see many empty shelves at the supermarket this morning either. It's, I mean, obviously it's a bit denuded of toilet paper. You could see that from the footage I shot, but at least there are some available, and that would indicate that some of this panic buying has finally dropped off.
Inconsistent. Queensland Chief Health Officer condones an 80-person funeral. Queensland Deputy Opposition Leader Tim Mander says the Queensland Government's decision to permit 80 people to gather for the funeral of a significant Indigenous elder is inconsistent. It's not equal treatment of Australians, and it's plain wrong. On Thursday, the Queensland's Chief Health Officer, Jeanette Young, granted a special exemption to the government's isolation restrictions, allowing up to 80 people to attend the funeral of an Indigenous elder in Mackay. The federal government has enforced a strict 10-person limit at funerals as part of the new social isolation rules. Mr. Mander said, "Here we have an example, not of a couple of extra people, but of 70 extra people at a time when the messaging is that we have to do the right thing and socially isolate. On this particular case, the message has also been that our Indigenous communities are incredibly vulnerable. The decision flies in the face of every message we have been given," he told Sky News host Peter Credlin. Australian Government Department of Health Advisory. Coronavirus COVID-19 advice for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and remote communities. Everybody is at risk of contracting COVID-19, so you need to protect yourself and others. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and people living in remote communities are at greater risk from COVID-19. So the federal government is advising people in these groups to show greater caution, yet the Queensland government gives them a free pass to congregate in a group of 80 people. Make sense out of that. Starship SN3 failure due to bad commanding. SN4 already under construction. SpaceX Starship SN3, the latest iteration of Starship test vehicles, was lost during testing at the launch site in Boca Chica, Texas. The incident occurred during proof testing on Friday morning. However, Elon Musk has since clarified the issue was the result of incorrect commanding, resulting in the loss of pressure as opposed to any material issue with the Starship build. As a result, SN4 will not require alterations to its structure, with construction work on the next Starship already taking place. So from this it appears that it was human error, and that's good in a way because it means that the construction techniques they're using are working. So that's good, but how could they make such a fundamental error as to have low pressure in the tank below the one that collapsed? It just doesn't make sense. It's such a basic error. I'm quite surprised it occurred, but I'm very pleased that that's the reason, and Elon will just move on, and it won't take long because he has a production line of these prototypes being built. So that's the good news. SpaceX Starship SN4 prototype comes together quick after SN3's demise. Work on Elon Musk's Mars rocket is progressing quickly despite some setbacks. While many businesses in Texas are shuttered due to the COVID-19 pandemic, SpaceX is busy working at its Boca Chica development facility to assemble another Starship prototype shortly after a previous version collapsed during a pressure test early this month. A webcam set up by a nearby resident captured the above time-lapse video of the Starship prototype SN4 getting stacked inside the company's on-site vehicle assembly building. NASA Spacelight.com reports that bulkheads for another unit, SN5, are also being built at the facility. This has been the company's operating mode during Starship development, to rapidly assemble 2 prototypes at a time to be able to quickly pivot to a new unit if one fails. So far, both SN1 and SN3 have failed during pressure tests, while SN2 passed. Please consider subscribing to my channel if you think there's anything there of use to you, or entertainment or whatever. And either do that or give me a thumbs up, or if you're feeling really energetic, do both. That'd be great. But please don't ignore me. That's the worst thing you can do on YouTube, is be ignored.